D20radio.com and D20radio.com.
Roll for initiative.
Issue 57 of the Roll for Initiative podcast. I am one of your hosts, DM Vince, along with DM Jason.
Hello.
And DM Nick.
Hey there.
We are back. We're about, at the time of this recording, we're about 2 weeks away from the big bang of Gen Con.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. So Jason and I will be there, and we'll probably look to meet people up maybe on Friday.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at my schedule yet, so I have to see when we're going to be able to do that.
Yes, I know there is a Dead Game Society meetup on Wednesday called Old School Wednesday they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as, I think it's after 5 until about 10 at night or something, and then they were going to go to the bar or something like that afterwards. Hang out, people can meet each other and greet and stuff like that. I think that's what they planned on doing.
That's cool.
So maybe we'll just go to that instead.
You guys
Okay.
are lucky.
And next year, DM Nick will be with us.
I think so. I might be going to Gen Con next year. We'll
Good.
just have to see.
So what you been up to, Jason?
Mostly getting ready to go to Gen Con. I'm actually leaving Thursday morning because I've got some stuff to do before I get to Gen Con. So I'm going to be taking a train down to North Carolina, meeting some friends. We're driving to Iowa. Then we're going to get on bicycles and ride back to the other side of Iowa. And then I'm going to Chicago. And then from there, I have to figure out how to get to Indianapolis to get to Gen Con.
I thought you were taking the train.
The train's just the first part to North Carolina. It's a big, long route. I was originally going to take a train from here to Indianapolis, but then all these other things came up in front of it. So now I'm making a big loop around and hitting Indianapolis from the other side.
So you're leaving, let's see,
Thursday.
July 28th?
Yeah.
Oh, I see now. Okay.
Because part of it, a week of it, is going to be on a bicycle. So.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's the actual thing, right? It's rag.
You're going to bicycle across Iowa, huh?
Yeah, I got a week. You know, I can.
You will die of boredom crossing Iowa now.
It.
Congratulations.
But if anybody knows a good way to get from Chicago to Indianapolis, let me know, because it looks like the trains are really slow, and it seems silly to take an airplane to go like an inch on the map. So if anybody's aware of good ways to get there, let me know.
Why don't you hook up from the people from Dead Game Society? Aren't they driving in?
That's a good idea.
They're from Chicago.
Actually.
They're actually in Chicago.
Yeah, they're from Chicago. See if you go.
Duh. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Winning.
Yeah, winning. Isn't there a large group there called Chicago-based Gamers or something too? They're probably.
I'm sure.
They're probably going to Gen Con.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Friday night, Car Wars Rogue Arena. I'm ticketed for that. It's running till 9 o'clock. We could do something afterwards, maybe.
Well, I'm free pretty much at 5:30 onward. So.
Yeah, Car Wars. I am super excited to play Car Wars. So. And Thursday night, Star Frontiers.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's going to be pretty cool.
I'm actually going to be on Thursday night. I think I'm going to be at your booth, Nick, your Kenzico booth.
Ah, okay.
I'll be checking out some of the demos of the Hackmaster Basic.
Cool. Hey, check out Aces and Eights too. It's a cool Western RPG too.
I like Westerns. I might check that out.
If anything, you see the book, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book.
Cool. But enough about that. Let's talk some more D&D here.
Okay.
This is what we're all about.
Right.
AD&D.
Yeah. Same thing. Let's head into Sage Advice.
Ooh.
Sage Advice.
So we're in Sage Advice. Let's start off with our voicemail tonight.
Greetings, RFI Gurus. This is DM Kojo. I have 2 questions for you. I haven't played AD&D in over 20 years, and I'm trying to get back into it now. Your podcast has been an awesome resource, for sure. I cut my teeth on the Mentor box sets, then I moved on to AD&D. I'm trying to get a local group together to play again, but most of them have only played once or twice back in the day, if you know what I mean. So they're basically new to the game. When starting out players who are rookies, do you recommend starting them out at first level, or would you start them out a bit higher to keep it more entertaining for them? Also, Do you have any suggested modules that I could run them through? I was personally always fond of the U-Series modules that Nick reviewed, but don't know if these would be good for new players. Also, my other question has to do with converting modules from classic D&D to the AD&D format. I have a lot of modules for both games, and some of my favorite ones are from the classic games, such as Keep on the Borderlands, Isle of Dread, Saber River, Quest for the Heartstone. So I was wondering if you had any tips on how to convert those modules so I could use them in my first edition AD&D game. Keep up the great work, and for the record, I have to agree with DM Nick. Clerics of War Gods should definitely be allowed to use bladed weapons, but I would certainly impose other penalties in areas to compensate and balance the character, such as limiting some types of spells or some other limitations like that. Keep up the good work. DM Kojo signing off. Thanks.
Wait a minute.
Ha! Vindication!
No,
Yes!
Wait a minute. DM Nick is Blackstone?
No. That's some other guy.
I heard that, Jason. Didn't you?
Sounded like it to me.
No,
Nick, have you been lying to
on
us?
the cleric thing. Ha ha!
Have you been lying to us, Nick?
Maybe a little.
So, first part.
Like anybody didn't know.
I know. Well, I guess first part of his question we should address. Starting characters at what level for beginners or basic people?
Well,
My vote,
Yeah, Jason.
first level.
I would start him at like third or fourth.
Why is that?
I mean, for the first time that they have ever played, because I mean, with AD&D, you know, it's tough at first level to survive if you're not an experienced player. I mean, that's part of kind of the legend of the game is how easy it is to get a TPK on a first level party. And the other one is these guys it sounded like to me like he said they had never played AD&D before. Maybe they haven't played tabletop role-playing games. I wasn't sure about that.
I think he said that they haven't played in a long time or played once.
Yeah, so I mean, let them have some fun. You know, let them have access to a few powerful things and kind of whet their appetite so they can, you know, keep going, I think.
I would have to disagree with our co-host here.
Oh, gee. Okay.
I would say start them off at first level. I say have a session 0 or session 1. Have a session to where you're creating the characters. See what they would like to make. Mm-hmm. I think if you start them off at third or fourth level, I think you're robbing them all the whole experience of like starting with that first level character and working his way up, you know, working tooth and claw, trying to get at those levels. I think.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do a campaign, sure, but these guys, who knows if they're like committed to play a whole lot of times or not. They're basically saying, hey guys, let's get together and play some Dungeons and Dragons. And it might just be like a one-off session. So I'd say it's fun to make the characters. It's fun to go through all those things in a campaign. And if they turn out to really have a great time, maybe he should say, guys, why don't we do this as a campaign and let's, you know, make some new characters and start from scratch. But for just one time, you know, let them cast a couple spells. Let them have a magic sword that's +1 at least. You know, let them do a couple of things.
I have to agree with Nick on the part of making them start first level. You're going to rob them of the experience, but I would say if it was their first time playing, I would probably ignore a lot of things like a lot of hit points, a lot of hits. I'd fudge rolls just so they can have fun.
Yeah, I would give them like each character maybe a magic item or two to start off with, something not too powerful, like a dagger +1 or a shield +1 or something like that. But and as far as adventures,
wow, okay.
The Saltmarsh series is good, but that's like a series. If you're talking like first through third level, one that leaps to mind is Against the Cult of the Reptile God. I think that's a great first or third level module.
That's an S series, isn't it?
N series.
Oh,
N1.
that's right. Yeah, N1.
Or the Novice series. It's written by, I think, Douglas Niles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I have actually pretty fond memory of that module. It's really good. And converting them, geez, it's like, I think the hardest things you might run into would be what? Maybe alignment? If you have to do some alignment changes on something?
Okay, I'll step in here being the aficionado on the classic.
Yeah, you might have some better idea on conversion stuff.
Save or Die podcast, by the way. Anyway,
Shameless plug.
yeah, shameless plug. No, the armor class is different in basic. They start at 9.
it's a
They
little
start at
different.
9 as opposed to 10. And a lot of the hit points are hit dice are a lot different. So you may want to beef up the monsters just a little bit, and consider the hit dice it's just off by 1. That's all.
Right, and also you have race as class in the basic D&D.
Yeah, most of that you can get around. I mean,
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, there's nothing really different, except there's a lot of treasure in the basic edition.
Or you have what's that one monster? The Fowl? It's a
Yeah.
combination of ghoul, troll, and
The Thule.
Thule or Fowl, where the heck it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah, the combination. There was actually a misprint that they had to actually put back in. Yeah, we found out that was a misprint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I would do that. I mean, just cut back on the gold, beef up the monsters a little, and just be aware the armor class is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And as far as
The one thing I might say about the adventure, though,
yeah,
I mean, I totally agree with you that Salt Marsh is a great place to start. I think
If you're going to do
Reptile.
a campaign.
well, it's okay. I mean, I've done just the first one as a standalone. There's enough of a payoff at the end
Yeah.
of just the first adventure. But
Oh, yeah.
I think that if he's running his friends through something, maybe they're all a little bit rusty, it might be easier, actually, for him to write his own adventure.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Okay.
good stuff out there online, too, that might be just,
oh yeah,
good for one night's gaming,
Yeah, I found that it actually takes more preparation and work to learn to read somebody else's adventure and to really learn it well than it does to make your own.
true.
It can be that way, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you get to the point where you have to be making some decisions on the fly, and the players go somewhere that's not on the map. If you've created the adventure, it's a little bit easier to make up what's beyond the border, as opposed to when you're reading somebody else's. You feel kind of stuck, and if the players see the DM kind of casting around for ideas and wondering, it slows it down a bit.
Yeah, just make like a simple, 10-room dungeon.
Yeah,
Stock it?
yeah. Just stock it. Don't even give it a whole lot of backstory or whatever. Just let them do a dungeon crawl.
Yeah, do a quick little dungeon crawl, see what happens. You never know.
Yeah, what you do, even better, pick up one of the old school BX books or the Holmes edition book, and they actually have a whole maze in the back of a quick crawl you can use.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a match in the player's hand or the DM's guide too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, or the dungeon decks you could use from those guys from Jim and Debbie.
Gamers Rules. Yeah, Gamers
Gamers
Rules.
Rule. They have dungeon decks.
Dungeon deck would be perfect for a situation like this.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another email here. It's from Chris. I recently stumbled upon your podcast and have really enjoyed listening through all the back episodes. I started playing AD&D back in the early 80s, left the game for a long while, and after a brief encounter with 4E, have rediscovered my old school roots. Yay.
Hooray!
Yeah, he came to his senses, apparently. I was hoping you might find some time in an upcoming episode to discuss the mechanics of non-lethal and weaponless combat according to the DMG rules, and maybe even walk your audience through a few melee rounds of pummeling, grappling, and overbearing. Thank you very much. Best regards, Chris. P.S. Hello to Vincent from a fellow Long Islander. Hi. So, Jason,
okay.
you're our book.
I'm often accused of being overbearing, so.
You're our book guy, Jason. You want to walk us through some quick thing?
So, we will not do an actual combat, but you can listen to one. We did one way back a couple of years ago. We did one. I think it was episode 4. We tried to look it up before the show, but our show notes could use some improvement. So I will find out which one it was, and we'll put it up in these show notes. But I'll just do a quick kind of recap on these without running through them in too much detail. Because I think the most difficult thing about the non-weapon or the non-lethal and weaponless combat, when you look at the DMG, it's actually not the rules that are difficult. It's the way they're written. It's the way they're presented. Because like most of the things in here, there's sort of a combination of narrative and charts. And the most difficult thing is that it doesn't really give you an overview to begin with of saying, well, this is kind of the model you should have in your head for how it goes. So I'll try to do that now. So there are 3 different things. There's pummeling, grappling, and overbearing. And they are Gygaxian turns of phrase for basically punching, wrestling, and knocking people down. So pummeling is just that, it's punching people out. Grappling is all the wrestling and getting the moves in. And overbearing is rushing at your opponent and just trying to knock them to the ground. In all of these, one of the really core issues to keep in mind is it talks about damage. But the damage that's in here is not real, so to speak. The way the hit points are set up in D&D is normally so that your damage is damage you actually take, and it takes the normal amount of time to heal. I think 1 hit point per day without magical means. But this damage is temporary, and it's 75% of the damage you take is what they call incidental, and you actually heal from that at 1 hit point per round. So you heal pretty quickly from it. Only 25% of the damage you take is actual long-lasting hit point damage that you have to heal normally. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that in these, it's meant to be kind of a quick action, and what's happening is you have an attacker and a defender, and the what do you call it? The adjustments that get made have a lot to do with the speed of the attacker and the defender, the size of them, and things like how much armor they're wearing. So when you see the pummeling, the more armor that the defender has on, the harder it is to really land a good blow, which makes sense. But when it comes to something like grappling, it's the opposite. The more armor that the attacker has on, the harder it is for them to get a good grip. So an attacker wearing plate mail is going to have a much harder time wrestling somebody to the ground than an attacker who's totally just wearing, a gherkin and a pair of trousers, right? When you go through it, there's a whole lot of adjustments for things like dexterity and armor class and all of that. It's much easier if you have those determined ahead of time. That's why in the character sheets, in the Goldenrod character sheets that you get from the official ones, there's actually the pummeling, grappling, and overbearing adjustments. So you figure them out ahead of time. It takes a few minutes. Once you've got the numbers in, it becomes a very quick thing where the DM is just saying, give me your numbers, and it's just very straightforward. You roll once to see if you hit, you put your adjustments in, and then if you hit, which means either you grab them or you punch them or whatever, then you go to what the result was, and the result's going to be fun stuff. Like in the pummeling, it's things like a glancing blow versus a solid punch versus a crushing blow, and you can stun your opponent, and you can knock them off balance. In the grappling, you have, if you're successful, you have a whole bunch of different holds that you can do, like a waist clinch, a bear hug, a stranglehold, and then, of course, your opponent can try to break the holds. So it's a lot of percentile rolling, and if you've got your numbers down ahead of time, it's actually very fast. And when it's all over, one opponent has either been knocked unconscious or overborne to the point that they've been grabbed, and now you can do what you like, which is either to hold them in place or stab them or let them go or whatever. But that's the basics. Yes. You've got 3 different types of attacks. You adjust it based on things like size and armor, etc. Keep those numbers around ahead of time, and when it comes time to do the rolling, it's very straightforward. Did you hit? And then if so, what kind of a hold did you get them in, or what kind of a punch did you land?
Right. So if the rest of the party hasn't fallen asleep by now from this whole combat experience. But thank you, Jason.
All right.
Last thing I wanted to just address is here, we had a spring up in the forums here under issue 55. So the episode called Take That Crispy, that Crispy was on with me and myself and DM Nick. And it spurred a comment in here, and Jason, I wanted you to actually step in here and make a final call.
Neutral party?
Yeah, you're a neutral party. You know the book really well, and you're a by-the-book person. And we've always counted on you to, be the referee here. So
Okay.
So basically, one of the, I won't say who, they'll figure it out themselves or they'll go look in the forums, says that the order of combat, initiative in combat, is rolled before you declare actions. And before you say anything, Jason, he quotes on page 61 of the DM guide that when doing combat, determine if the parties are surprised, if any at all. 2, and this is reading out of the book, determine the distance if known, blah, blah. 3, if both parties are unsurprised or equally surprised, determine initiative for that round. 4, determine the results of whatever actions are decided upon the party within the initiative. So on and so forth, everybody knows that. So he is saying that you would roll initiative and then declare your actions, which I don't believe is right, and because Gary says later on in the book, I believe it's page 71, that you would declare your actions and then roll initiative and then determine the results. But I wanted you to clear that up.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't call myself necessarily like, the encyclopedia of the rules or anything like that, but I try to read it, as closely as I can. And the one thing I try to do is to use some logic and understand what the intent was, if the rules sometimes are, a little unclear. So I read through these, and spoiler alert, you do announce your intentions before you roll the initiative. I'll explain why that makes sense, and then I'll kind of show you why it actually makes sense when you read it as well. And it's funny because I'm looking at a little flow chart that I made for myself back in high school showing how the combat goes. And I've got players announce actions, then roll initiative. But first of all, why that makes sense, because the way that the combat system is set up in AD&D, everything's happening all at once. You're not taking – it's not I swing my sword, now what will you do as I swing my sword? It's not my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. That's something that got introduced.
At once, pretty much.
Exactly. It's exactly right. This isn't a board game.
This isn't later editions.
Sorry?
I said this isn't later editions as well.
Yeah, I know. That's always drives me nuts. And actually, with the group that I sometimes do play 4E with, we've switched it around because it turns out to be more fun that way. But basically, the point is that everybody says, all right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You go in with saying what it is you want to do. Now, that goes really quickly. Everybody says their things. DM writes it down. And then he resolves the action, or she resolves the action. In other words, says, okay, if you were going to shoot an arrow and you were going to cast a spell, you were going to run off to the side, let's see within the frame of a combat round when those things actually happened. And if you didn't do that ahead of time, then somebody could say, well, I don't know if I'm going to cast a spell or not, because I'm going to wait and see if that monster is going to attack me before I try to cast a spell, because I don't want to get it, interrupted. But what's actually happening, because it's all happening at once, you've got to say that beforehand. So that's the logic behind why it makes more sense. But if you read the actual text of the book, determine surprise. Okay, got that. Number 2, determine the distance. Got that. Number 3, if they're, both unsurprised or whatever, determine initiative. And then this is, I think, where whoever was posting got a little confused, because the exact wording is determine the results of whatever actions are decided upon by the party with initiative. It's not state your actions. It's determine the results of. In other words, resolve the situation. So what this leaves out a little bit is that there's no number here for everybody says what they're going to do. That happens before any of these things occur. And that's why later on it actually says, I think you said on page 71 or whatever, that the intentions are announced beforehand. So there's no contradiction. It's just that on this page that isn't listed in the numbers of the things that happen, because it's assumed that you already know you're supposed to say what you're going to do.
I think I just also had a moment of clarity here.
Okay.
And it was something that Jason said, to help resolve the situation, resolve combat, whatever it may be. Like you said, this is all happening at once. Combat's going on, people casting spells, chugging potions, monsters running into the fight, whatever. The initiative is just a way of giving a little bit of order to the chaos and trying to resolve these actions while it's all happening.
Right.
Trying to give some order to it all. I'm like, that's freaking brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you need to know. It's really important when you get to the example I just gave of casting a spell. If somebody's shooting an arrow at the magic user who's trying to cast a spell, you have to know whether or not they managed to get finished saying their spell before the arrow hit them. That's why there's a segment casting time for the spell, and that's why you have segments of action in a round so that you can tell how long it takes the arrow to get there.
Exactly.
And it's an exciting moment.
Cool. All right, well, we resolved that. Enough said.
All right.
We won the argument. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, I think we hopefully just cleared it up a bit.
Yeah,
Resolve the chaotic situation.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, nice job. All right, Sage Advice, you can email us, rfistaff@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail, 570-825-4210, the hotline. Hotline, where Nick is standing by.
You got it hot.
You know, I think people actually call the hotline to see if Nick or somebody is standing by.
Oh, God.
Well, then you better stand by.
Because I noticed, like, missed calls of, like, a second voicemail or something. So I wonder if people, like, checking to see if somebody answers the phone or something. So people...
Yes, we wait by that phone with bated breath.
Be assured nobody answers the phone. It goes directly to voicemail after a couple rings. So
I'll
don't worry
try
about
Tucker's kobolds on it, and maybe they'll answer the phone next time.
Don't worry, you won't get a hello. This is Jason or something like that. Just in case you don't want to talk to us directly, don't worry about it. Well, let's head into table manners.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I had to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
In table manners today, we're going to talk about alignment languages.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the more controversial rules in AD&D, wouldn't you guys say?
You speak evil.
Yes.
Neutral domain.
So to go by the book, alignment languages are secret bits of phrases and words and maybe even hand gestures that are only known to some creature of a certain alignment. So according to the book, all lawful good intelligent creatures, well, I guess you'd have to be intelligent of some sort to be lawful good, but anyway, all lawful good creatures speak the lawful good alignment. And even more controversial, if you change alignment, you can no longer speak that language. You just forget it. And then you learn the new one. So how does that all work, and does it make any sense?
No.
And I was reading through the book, and the PhD was at page 24.
24 in the DMG.
Yeah, DMG. The alignment tongue, or the alignment language, is only supposed to be used in... You're not supposed to use it out in the open.
Yeah, you don't just go around talking in it. It's
Right.
sort of like...
I guess it's like a
belonging to-
major social faux pas if you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like belonging to a secret society and then just spilling the beans, right in the town square.
Yeah, it's like being a Freemason and say, okay, this is all of our secrets.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one where definitely if you want to play with or without this rule, it has a lot to do with the nature of your campaign. If the flavor of your campaign is a very ultra-realistic campaign, and the only difference between history and your campaign is that magic works, then you might have a hard time justifying the idea that there are these alignment languages that people can just suddenly speak, right?
I speak evil.
Yeah, and it just I think for a lot of people that would really take away from the realism of it.
Yeah.
And also it can just be kind of a confusing rule, that doesn't have a lot of necessity to it. But if you are in a campaign and you're playing with a worldview that the alignments are very real things, you've got if you read the manual of the planes, you've got a different plane for every alignment. They are actual forces in the world, not just personality types. And we've talked about this before, the issue of what is an alignment and how does it change.
Right.
So if you accept the worldview that being of, let's say, chaotic good alignment isn't just a matter of being a bit like, Jack Kerouac or something. It's not just a personality issue, but it's actually being aligned with that plane of existence. Then I think you could make sense of the idea that somehow these alignment languages are tied to something spiritual or magical or some other type of thing, so that it becomes like a core of your being. And that when you change alignment, it's a really big deal. The gods have a problem with it. They take away your power to speak that. The other gods that are aligned with the new alignment are really happy about it, and they give you the new power to speak that. It kind of makes sense in that sort of a worldview, I think. And the alignment languages, they're not meant to be languages. You're not going to write government documents in these. You won't conduct business in them. You can't write poetry. They're often compared to the thieves' cant in the book.
Yeah, it sounds like more
Dragon
like
magazine.
symbols and gestures and things of that nature.
Like hobo graffiti from from riding the rails. Those hobo symbols.
Yeah.
I've always thought of alignment languages as like, I don't know, like a pig Latin or how when twins and triplets have their own secret language they always make up, but they know what they're saying. Something like that. That's what I've always associated those languages like.
So, like the example they give of thieves' cant, I think that's kind of like what you're talking about. They had all of these words that, in history, so historical example that's usually given in the books, and it's such almost a cliche at this point that if you look at Wikipedia, as I did, before this, got to cheat somehow, it says, thieves' cant is something that actually existed centuries ago, and basically the only reason people even remember it now is because of role-playing games. So, but you're familiar with like Cockney rhyming slang, apples and pears and all that business, which again might only happen in movies now, as far as I know. But if anybody knows different, let us know. If anybody's listening in who's Cockney, is that still a thing? Call in and say a bunch of Cockney rhyming slang at us, would you?
Is that like jive talk or something?
That's another good one. Yeah,
I speak jive.
Anytime you've got a certain culture that identifies with itself, it's going to maybe develop some words and some phrases that only are understood within that culture. That's another one. Yes. But here, now you've got this culture of hackers or jive turkeys from the 70s or Cockney rhyming, moppets from the Victorian era or whatever. Instead of just that, you now have an entire plane of alignment, so that when a lawful good paladin, runs into a lawful good planar from another alternate dimension, they can actually, even if they don't speak the same language, could at least exchange a few basic ways of communicating between themselves.
Interesting.
Sweet.
Weird.
Now here's the question to all of this. Has anybody here used alignment languages in a campaign or been in a campaign where they have used alignment languages?
Well, I actually was in a campaign myself that we used it with Joe. He actually implemented it, and he actually, the great
DM Joe.
It was cool because he made up like his own sign language, and he used it for the game, and then he what did he use? He had these little cards that he made up little symbols on to symbolize different things. So,
cards like what?
Like he made up these like symbols on the cards, and he would use them for certain things, and we had to figure out what the words meant and everything.
Oh, cool!
Wow,
that was kind of cool.
Was the alignment tongue?
Yeah, it was. He used it for mostly for a neutral alignment when we were playing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually, cause isn't neutral supposed to be the one alignment that doesn't have an alignment language?
Maybe.
I thought that was the only one
Joe
that did.
DM. He could do whatever he wants.
What's his game?
He did it for neutral-ish language, like lawful neutral and chaotic neutral. And
Not true neutral. Though.
Yeah, not true neutral. We never actually played with true neutral. That was one rule that he always had in his games, and I continued it. That no player character plays true neutral.
Not even a druid?
No, he would actually make the druid change their alignment.
Ah.
Yeah, because he from his philosophy was that no true player character can actually play true neutral the proper way, so why make them hurt during the game? So just let them play a normal character. If they really want to play a druid, then just pick an alignment that's within reason.
I don't think I've ever played in a game or ever used in a campaign the alignment languages at all. Even back in my early days of playing, I don't think I ever recalled using it. I'm like, what does lawful neutral sound like? You know,
right?
Gobbledygook.
Does it sound like a bunch of legalese?
Well, no, I have used it at times. I have used it at times when there's a need to communicate with a creature that just does. They're in a different country. Common isn't spoken, something like that. You know, I've used it for that purpose. I've never used it as a way to, sort of like a secret handshake kind of thing. I suppose it could work as that, but what if you get it wrong?
Yeah.
I guess...
And that's how it kind of alludes to in the book. It's kind of used in that way, like you said. It's kind of like a secret language.
But, the thing is, so you've got a spell, detect alignment, right? Or no alignment, I think it's called. Doesn't it kind of make that spell pointless if all you have to do is try speaking a few words of lawful neutral to find out if they understand you?
Yeah, but what if they don't want to acknowledge the fact?
Right.
Yeah, but they can't fake it either. I mean, so let's say somebody's claiming, okay, spoiler here, if anybody's planning to play Saltmarsh, close your ears for a few seconds. I won't say anything too explicit about what happens, but anyway. Let's say that you meet somebody who's claiming to be a thief, but they're really an assassin. Let's just say, right? And let's say they're a lawful evil assassin, and they're claiming to be a neutral thief.
Mm-hmm.
Neutral is a bad example. Let's say they're a lawful evil assassin. They're claiming to be a chaotic neutral thief.
Okay.
Well, if you've got somebody in the party who is chaotic neutral, all they have to do is say a couple of things that only a chaotic neutral would know, and then they don't know it because they can't know it because it's unknowable to somebody who's not lawful neutral.
Yeah, but that assassin is not going to be a dope and go, "Oh my god, you caught me!" and start talking in the language.
But also assassins, when aren't they a high enough level? Aren't they able to learn other alignment tongues?
Oh, are they?
No, I don't think so.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a good one for
assassins with an intelligence of 15 or more are able to learn an alignment tongue.
Okay, but let's take a different example. It's just whatever it is. Let's say you're talking to somebody that's claiming to be good, and they're actually evil, and they're just not going. If you use the test of saying a couple of things that only a good character would understand, they would. It's probably why. I mean, there is a sentence in here that says in the book they are not used as salutations or interrogatives if the speaker is uncertain of the alignment of those addressed.
Right.
But still, I mean, if you're claiming to be chaotic good and you're hanging out with the party, why wouldn't you just use that as a test?
I guess you could.
I don't know. I'd love to hear anybody's thoughts on it, because to me that kind of runs... It's not a contradiction, but it's a little bit of a confusion. Why would you bother having this spell? Is there an actual... There is a... sorry, guys. There's a parrot that just landed on the fence out back of here.
Maybe he speaks an alignment tongue.
Yeah, let me try. That is crazy. He's gone now. An actual green parrot just flew... What? Oh well.
Wow.
It's New York City. We don't get anything other than pigeons and rats. That was amazing.
Which are basically flying rats anyway, but
same thing.
Yeah.
I always thought
What's
maybe
their alignment tongue?
Rat.
Evil.
Evil.
No, annoyance. That's their alignment tongue.
Huge and scary. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any idea about why you would bother having the no alignment spell when you could just use a few tricks. Well, I don't know.
Well, the only way you'd use that is if you don't use alignment languages.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you walk up to a person that you're unsure about in your party and you, I don't know, throw whatever, chaotic neutral at them. They still can look at you and pretend like they don't know what you're talking about. Wouldn't you say
Yeah, but
that?
what I'm saying is if they're claiming to be chaotic good, you're chaotic good, you say something in chaotic good, they better, and they don't understand it, then you know at least they're not that.
Yeah, true, but they can always go the route of, how dare you use that tongue in public?
Yeah.
Go that route.
But I guess you could still need the spell. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not
you would.
supposed to just go around using it as a way of interrogating people.
That's true.
Now it's interrogating.
Well, it says an interrogative, so, you know.
Yeah, close enough.
Close enough. Well, anyways, it's a little bit of a goofy rule. I hate to say anything like, oh, I don't like the way the game's set up, because why am I playing it if I don't like the way it's set up? But this one throws me off a little bit. I don't think I've ever quite come to grips with the idea of alignment as being some elemental feature of reality, the way that it's presented here.
Right. Okay.
I've just never used them or played with them.
Well. Yeah, they're pretty much just there. I mean.
So anyways, those are alignment languages, and there are some cool things you can do if you're interested in playing with them. It can be fun to do some of the things like the great Joe DM did with the cards.
Yeah.
There's even, in one of the Dragon magazines, there was a whole special on languages.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I forgot which. It was like 71 or something. But they also have a nice handy guide to Thieves' Cant in that dragon. So if you want to use some of those words to introduce a little bit of pseudo-reality to the situation, that can be fun too.
Cool.
I forgot to tell you guys, I actually found out where the great Joe DM lives.
Did you?
Yes, he does. He is still in Long Island, and he is still in the same place he always lived.
You didn't think to look there.
No, I didn't think that. I've been trying to get his phone number from one of my friends back from Long Island to give him a call so I could, at least tell him about the podcast if he isn't already listening, which I hope he is, Joe.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Didn't we say we just had a letter from a fellow Long Islander?
His name was Chris.
Oh,
He claims his name is Chris. He didn't say it in chaotic good.
okay. Good point.
No, he's actually Chris from, I think he said he's from, I think he said Ronkonkoma area, which you guys wouldn't know where that is, but,
No.
Anyway, I think we were heading into game mechanics, right?
Yeah, let's go over there and see what we have in the room.
You think I'm mad? Perhaps I am.
What are you, a wizard, a genius?
Darn. A perfectly good brain wasted.
Game mechanics.
All right, let's look around here in the game mechanics room. And it looks like today we're going to be talking about death.
I am death.
Sorry.
How do we all
Zero.
die? The salmon moose.
7 moose.
No,
Don't know what that
salmon
means.
moose.
The old 96er.
You ever seen Monty Python's Meaning of Life?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
but
wow.
what about a moose?
Salmon moose.
I don't
Never
know.
mind.
I don't know.
On topic.
On
Okay,
topic.
sorry. Shiny
So-
thing, sorry.
Squirrel!
Nick, here's the ball. Now go have fun.
0 hit point death versus minus 10 hit point death. This is another one of those things that really should have just been stuck right up in the front of the book in huge letters because it's not like, when does your character die is some obscure concept, right? That might never come up.
Oh, some people think it is.
Well, they're probably playing 4th edition.
Zing!
Ooh, direct attack. I shouldn't do that.
Bazinga.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked before about should novices play first level characters? Well, if they do, this rule is probably going to come up, you get hit twice by a fire ant, and you're down to 0 hit points.
Or rat.
Or less. So what happens?
You're not quite dead.
I'm getting better. So the rule is 0 hit points is not dead, but you can't keep fighting either. -10 hit points, that's dead.
Right.
What 0 hit points mean is you're unconscious. And now you're starting to bleed out. Whether it means internal bleeding, external bleeding, so whatever the cause is, once you hit 0 hit points, you're now on the road to death.
And for all of our listeners out there, that's on page 82.
Yes.
Dungeon Master's Guide.
82. So if you are brought down to 0 hit points, you're then unconscious. And then for every succeeding round, you lose another hit point until you get to -10. That's death. And it's caused, says here, from bleeding, shock, convulsions, non-respiration, etc.
People poking you with a stick.
That could, any of those things. But the good news is you don't have to have a cleric to save them at this point. Any aid will stop them from bleeding out or from continuing towards death. So here, the game kind of overtakes reality a little bit and assumes that all the characters know some of your basic CPR and bandaging wounds and things like that, and
poking you with a stick.
Not poking you with a stick, so you can continue to go to. Because how to stop poking a dead man or a dying man with a stick? I took a class in that. They said stop.
Yes, there you go.
They took the stick away and broke it.
But then what they need to, so all they can do at that point is to stabilize them. So if you've come down to, say, -3 hit points, you're unconscious, and your party members stabilize you by administering first aid of whatever type, now you stay at -3. You're not going to continue towards death, but you're not going to heal up either. You're not going to come back up to 0 and wake up and everything's going to be better. The first thing is you have to be brought back to 0 hit points. You're going to either need a cleric, or you're going to need the bed rest and the time, of normal healing, which is 1 hit point per day. So let's say you're -3 hit points. There's no cleric around. It's going to take 3 days of bed rest to get back up to 0.
Of lugging his butt around.
Yes. So
what do you have to play?
You throw them in the bag of holding.
Yeah. They might die in there. Oh wait, they're already dead.
I'd let them have. I'd let them. Wouldn't you?
Really?
Sure.
Bag of holding?
Bag of holding?
Sure, why not?
I don't want to just kill. I mean, if they've gone to the trouble of figuring that out and they've stabilized their characters are important. I don't want to just kill them.
And what do you have them roll when you have them do first aid, Jason, in your game?
I don't.
You just say they're stabilizing.
It's just stabilizing, because the thing is, you do first aid, you're not bringing them back to 0, you're just keeping them from dying. If a cleric heals them up, they come up above 0, that's fine, but they're not going to get on their feet and start fighting again, because the next part of the rule is any character brought to 0 hit points and then or fewer, and then revived will remain in a coma for 1 to 6 turns. So that's 10 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And thereafter, he or she must rest for a full week minimum. He or she will be incapable of any activity other than that necessary to move slowly to a place of rest and eat and sleep when there. Cannot attack, defend. You're out. It's got to hurt to go down to 0 hit points.
Yeah,
and that's
think about it. You were brought back from death's door, essentially. You were, with all intents and purposes, you were in a coma. And you just came out of a coma. The last thing you want to do is probably go around jogging around with your sword in your hand and trying to whack at things. I think you might want to just, relax, recoup a little bit. So that makes sense.
Exactly. Now, of course, I'm not prepared as well as I should be, but isn't there a restoration spell that can overcome the need to... Yeah, 7th level clerics, restoration.
Yeah, restoration.
Yeah, which will overcome the need to go through all of that.
If you have a high enough cleric that could do that.
If you've got a cleric who's at 7th level, they should have probably kept you from getting down to 0 hit points in the first place.
In the first place. Agreed.
But the basics are 0 hit points is just unconscious. -10, that's dead.
Well, you said you don't have them roll, you just have them stabilized. Now, what about in the middle of combat? Your guy, so Nick is in combat with, say, me, you, and Nick are playing, and Nick's character goes down -2, and we're still fighting. I'm holding him off, Jason. Your guy's a thief. You decide to go stabilize him. You just let him automatically stabilize him, or do you think the DM, looking from the DM point of view, you would say, okay, roll me a percentile, roll me a d6, roll me a d20? You don't think there's a chance that he could screw it up?
any failure chance for just stabilizing. But it takes time to stabilize. I give them a round, and during that round they're vulnerable. So it might not be very practical to try to stabilize somebody during combat. In which case, you better hurry up and finish the combat quickly before they die. But I don't do any rolls. Do you? What do you do?
Yeah, I actually do a d20 roll, and I only require maybe like one thing, and that's not roll a 1.
Okay.
If you roll a 1, then you automatically cause more harm to the player than helping him. That's the only thing. Because I feel you're sitting there in combat, you're taking the bandages out or whatever you're using, you're pulling your straps out, you're cutting it, you're patching the guy up. What if an arrow knocks you in the back, or your buddy who's fighting bumps into you? You could screw up and jam the knife into the guy's back or something. While you're trying to stabilize.
Now, as far as I recall, with this rule and how I played it back in the day, I think I did it like Jason. Your character declared, "I'm going to stabilize the character such and such," and so they won't drop any more hit points. You're administering that first aid or whatever it is. So
right,
and it'd probably take like a round to do. So.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's a little bit unrealistic that any character can just, you've just had your player be mauled by a bugbear, and he's down to, he's bleeding out and he's unconscious, and somebody's just going to go over and put a Band-Aid on him, and he's, stabilized. But it would get pretty complex to go beyond that. I think, what you're saying about rolling to see if they maybe fail. Well, that might introduce a little something to it. It's just, nothing that I had come up with.
I just think for a stressful situation that someone might screw up that's not used to doing it or something.
Yeah. Now, the other question that might come up is, it's not a rule in here, but system shock rolls.
Yes.
Now, you're supposed to do them for resurrection, but that's resurrection.
Right. Now, I don't think it's in D&D. I'm confusing it with another game system.
I use System Shock only when a character takes so much damage. Mm-hmm. So if he's reduced to, say, -5, and that happens to be a 25% hit on his hit points, then he'd be doing a System Shock. In my book.
That's good.
And a 0 hit point death actually beckons back to basic D&D. Back to the Mulvey and Cook and Menser. I'm looking at the rules right now in front of me. Page 25 of the Mulvey book. Any defender reduced to 0 hit points or less is dead.
Yeah, so. That's pretty straightforward. I guess they just wanted to give him some kind of a chance here.
I think that's probably where some people got some confusion on which is the correct rule. I think some people who started with the Mulvey edition or some older editions of D&D, when they maybe went on to play AD&D first edition, they just carried over that 0 hit points equals death rule with them.
Joe did that actually, because I remember specifically in one campaign we were playing, and my character found this. We came upon this tree. It was a wiggling tree. I don't know why it was wiggling, but anyway, and it had a dagger stuck in it. And Joe's like, a dagger.
A dagger, okay.
It was a dagger stuck in the tree, and the tree was wiggling back and forth, looked like it was in pain. So Joe's like, what do you do? So I went up, I go, I pull the dagger out, and I, patch up the hole for the tree. And he's just like, okay, great. He goes, and then we were playing, and then when I reached 0 hit points, I didn't die. So after the game, I was like, Joe, so why didn't I die? He goes, oh, because the dagger brings you to negative 10 hit points, and then you would die. I was like, oh, so okay.
Yeah.
So he's one of the people, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, along with that is when some other people maybe went on the AD&D first edition or even started with that, and they read that rule, that's what they stuck with. So I think there was some confusion, or there might have been some dispute between some people's like, well, 0 hit points equals death. That's how we always did it, blah, blah, blah. Well, versus some people, well, no, it's negative 10. It's right here in the book. And so,
well, that's the part of the problem is that right here in the book is actually, page 82 in between a couple of other topics.
Right.
It's pretty easy to miss.
Like I was saying, it's just all those people who started with Mulvey or Metzer rules or whatever, and they went on and they just carried that over. And I think I kind of recall some of that. Some people saying, 0 hit points is death. That's it. And there are some other people who say, well, it's negative 10. It's right here in the book. And so, I don't know. I mean,
it's easy to miss. It's on
like you
page
said, it's buried
82.
between two other topics.
Yeah. But I think it adds a lot of fun to it, having the opportunity to actually revive a character without, I had a game recently where one of the players was knocked down to, I think it was like -3 actually. Mm-hmm. And there was a whole lot of stuff involved with trying to make sure that they could stabilize him before the end of the combat so that he didn't go down to -10. And then they had to figure out how to get him out of the dungeon, so they could actually do something with him. And that became part of the adventure.
Add a little bit of a twist to this. What I would do if I was running first edition again, I probably would have like a skill called First Aid. There might be one in the Wilderness or Dungeoneer Survival Guide, for all I know. I'd have to check my books, but I think there's a First Aid skill that could be used to do the stabilize and maybe regain a couple of hit points here or there. But
why make it a special skill?
Well, I mean, if you want to introduce, proficiencies into the game, I mean, that might be a particular proficiency.
You mean non-weapon proficiencies?
Yeah, non-weapon proficiency.
Oh, okay.
So that might be a non-weapon proficiency a character might have.
I don't know what this non-weapon proficiency you're talking about is.
I understand that.
I've never heard of this phrase. Have you, Jason?
I'm not clear on the topic.
Yeah.
What?
I think that was second.
Anyway, moving on from that, one of the things I would probably introduce into the game, and this might sound a little bit cutthroat, but keep in mind this goes both ways to the player characters and to monsters and NPCs. If you suffer more than half of your hit points in one round, you have to make a system shock roll or fall unconscious.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with that, too, yeah.
What do you think of that, Jason?
I can see why you would do it, and if I was playing in your game and you said that was the rule, I'd go along with it fine, but I don't do it in mine.
Okay.
I think there's plenty of ways to die and get killed as it is.
Okay.
You just don't want to add many more to the list, huh?
It's hard enough to survive through your average dungeon. I just don't want to make it any harder.
Cool.
Oh, why not?
But, a fun thing that's in here we didn't bring up, just a little side rule. If you are brought below -6 hit points before you get revived, then you could it says it could indicate scarring or the loss of some member. So it could be a fun little thing to give a character a scar or a missing finger or something like that.
Or maybe brain damage.
Oh, yeah.
I think missing foot and brain damage, you maybe don't have a playable character anymore unless it's a fighter. So, for the brain damage.
I smash you.
Fighters are dumb. So, yeah. There's that.
Great. So we'll throw it out to people out there. Let's see what they use. You can email us or, call us. One of the two. And let's end the creature feature.
Creature, theater.
So for the creature this week, we're going to look at a very different book of creatures this week. We're going to head over to the Manual of Planes.
Manual O the Planes.
O the Planes. One of the orange spine books that I have here that's falling apart because of the bad glue.
Mine's in great condition.
Yeah,
mine's like brand new.
Yeah, mine is too. I'm looking at the older one I have.
Oh, okay.
The one that still has the Toys R Us sticker on it that I bought. It says $9.99 Toys R Us with that old orange sticker they used to have.
Yes.
Nice.
Written by Mr. Jeff Grubb. We actually have, and the Einherjar, I'm going to say how it's pronounced. Jason, think that's close?
Einherjar?
I don't know. It's some type of German monster.
Let's just call it Spirit Legions, as it is in the appendix there.
Yeah,
Spirit Legions.
Spirit Legions, that's good.
I like this is kind of like when you go to the outer planes, and this is the Guardian that you would see when you first reach the plane. These guys are roaming around, protecting the planes.
They're like the Valkyrie in a way.
Yeah, they're the glorious. Let's see, I hear is probably the name of the glorious dead Asgard, which would pretty much be equivalent of. I considered Asgard's the opposite of Tieflings, or for Jason, the opposite of a devil or a demon, so an angel.
Well, Asgard is actually a plane.
Yeah, but I consider Asgardians as in like angel-like people. So.
Oh, okay. But all right. My first question here is Asgard? That's just for the Norse mythos, right?
Yeah, the Valhalla. Yeah, okay. Valhalla, okay. Valhalla, things like that. Yeah.
So I mean, that's why you're saying, Nick, like the Valkyries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
But the description, go ahead and read on that, because it's just used like as a generality, I guess.
Where was I? But it uses a general name for any humanoid spirits that are employed, or they have a job, in the outer planes as servants, warriors, patrols, or guards.
Apparently so.
They must punch in and punch out or something, I don't know. They are primarily used in the planes that are neutral to good alignment, and they are much less common in the lower planes. 10d10 could be a roaming party, and then you have to roll in a chart to determine what class they would represent and what level they would become. Based upon the class, then you would get through the alignment and what other weapons and stuff they would have on them. But using these in a campaign, you would rarely see them, but unless they travel to, say, some outer plane. And I would use this creature as like the greeting creature. You come on the plane, this would be the first thing that comes up to you, like as if it's on a good plane. State your business type creature. Mm-hmm. I could totally see one of these things.
What's your favorite color?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Not that little jerk. But I could totally see them doing that. How would you use them yourself, Nick?
Well, 10d10. That's a lot of them that could show up. Well, like you said, on their respectable planes that they are, they're the warrior legions or whatever of those particular gods. I would say they're probably the ones that would greet you, if you want to greeting in a very broad sense. Greeting them maybe with swords drawn and spells at the ready. Who knows?
Yeah, state your purpose.
Yeah, state your purpose, or we will blow you away back to whence you came. Otherwise, I wonder if these creatures could be sent by their gods to be, check up on some of their worshipers, some of their clerics, to see what they're doing. Make sure that they're spreading the faith accordingly, stuff of that matter. I wonder if they could be used in that sense on the prime material from a particular god.
I don't think. How would they?
Well, I mean,
how would they get around?
How would they get around on the other planes?
I would think that
they'd sort of be angels of Asgard. I mean, they sound to me like your basic henchmen.
Yeah.
It's so the number 10d10 being a general patrol. It's in the sentence where it says that the number encountered varies according to the plane. I know that they say that they exist on different planes, but I don't have a problem with them also being sent on some sort of a task. They're probably not by themselves. They'd probably be sent as a group.
Yeah, because you could see in their description where it says frequency, common, and in parentheses, on planes where they exist. So, who says maybe they're very rare on the Prime material? You know?
Yeah. I think the idea of a god sending them down, it makes a lot of sense.
In fact, I was just going to say to that, maybe this would be something you could use, like, if you use the quote-unquote God call in your campaign, maybe this is a way of your god responding to that God call.
Divine intervention.
Phone call.
Divine intervention, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is maybe a result of a divine intervention. 10d10 of the Spirit Legion of the Spirit Legion show up and help you out for X amount of rounds in the combat. I don't know. Maybe this is a way you can use that.
I heard somewhere, I don't know if I heard it or read it in our forums, someone had a chart for every game for divine intervention, and they would roll it, and they would tell you what the god would do as opposed to the combat. So you call divine intervention, the god doesn't answer you, or the god listens to you and gives you 1d4 hit points healed or something, or the god throws a streak of lightning down, but you really weren't paying attention to him, so he decides to throw lightning at you instead, or something like that.
How dare you bug me while I'm eating?
Yeah, he's doing his laundry and you bothered him, so he threw lightning at you instead. I don't know.
Gods are very fickle.
Yeah, someone wrote that up, and I can't remember where I saw it, but that just jogged my memory for that.
That's
it was
pretty cool.
kind of interesting.
Yeah. You can think of some ways, any other ways, Jason, you might want to use these in a campaign? I don't know.
When I think of these guys, I know they're they can be guards, etc., patrols and all that, but I really do think of them as henchmen, the way that they're described here. So, I don't know that I would necessarily always have them greeting you and things like that. It may just be that they really don't care that much about you unless they've been specifically instructed to. And the most likely effect of an interaction is you're annoying them, and maybe they just send you away because you're bothering their drinking.
Yeah. Or I just thought of a really good one. A high intelligence one sent down as a false prophet to throw off the religion.
Ooh. I like that one.
Yeah, he's sent down to cause chaos and mischief just to see if the faith is true.
Have you guys seen this British TV show called Misfits? Well, there's a good episode with a false prophet in that one that I think would make a good sort of model for the kind of adventure you're talking about.
Yeah, that'd be a great one, actually.
Yeah, Misfits. It's kind of like the British version of Skins crossed with Doctor Who.
Interesting.
Yeah, you got a bunch of juvenile delinquents, and they all end up with these kind of lousy superpowers.
My God.
But yeah, so it's a great show. They've only had a couple of seasons, but it's really good. But there's a good one with a false prophet in there, and the way that they have to deal with him, I think, would make a good starting point if you wanted to write your own adventure around that kind of thing.
Word.
So
that's the creature in a nutshell.
4 things in a nutshell.
Aww.
Why'd you do that?
Well, he needs to be captured once in a while. Tell us how you use it, or if you've experienced it, or if maybe you had a hand in writing it, because I don't think Jeff wrote all these monsters himself, and there's a lot of names in here, so tell us what you think. And we'll head into the Dragon's Horde.
The Dragon's Horde.
Okay, today on Dragon's Horde, we're going to cover one of my favorite magic items, the Wand of Polymorphing, or otherwise I call it the Wand of Insta-Death.
Wow.
And I'll explain why here in just a minute. I'll read the description out of the DMG page 136. The Polymorphing Wand emits a green beam, a thin ray which darts forth to a maximum distance of 6 inches or 60 feet as you convert it. If this beam touches any creature, it must make a saving throw versus wands. Success indicates a miss. Or be polymorphed as the spell of the same name, polymorph others. And I'll give a reason why this might be instant death. The wand wielder may opt to form the victim into a snail, frog, insect, etc., as long as the result is a small and inoffensive creature. So it's like, I turned me into a newt. So there you go.
But it didn't get better.
And didn't get better.
No.
The possessor of the wand may elect to touch a creature. So this has 2 ways. You can either shoot the green beam, or you can touch a person
With
or
the
a
wand.
creature with the wand.
Right.
When this is done, unwilling creatures must be hit as also and are also entitled to a saving throw. So you have to roll the hit if you're going to try to smack a orc with this thing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right? And they're still entitled to a saving throw versus wand. The recipient is surrounded by dancing motes of sparkling emerald light, then transforms into whatever creature shape the wand wielder has stated. This is the same magical effect as Polymorph Self spell. Now, this is a huge difference between the other effect. Either function requires 3 segments, each draws 1 charge. Only 1 function per round is possible. The wand may be recharged. Now, with all that being said, the first way, when it shoots the beam, obviously the first way is kind of meant as to be an offensive weapon of some sort. You have the big bad red dragon charging at you. Or, I don't know, there's a basilisk, okay? Maybe let's say a basilisk, because I don't want to mess with magic resistance. I don't think basilisks have that. So, basilisk, you shoot it. Now, it must make a saving throw versus wands. Okay, say if it fails. Okay. Now, if it functions as the polymorph other spell, which you go to the player's handbook. It's a 4th level magic user spell. What will happen is the creature polymorph must make a system shock roll to see if it survives the change.
Uh-huh.
So.
Oh, I see what you're saying by insta-death.
That's why it's a possible insta-kill. If it fails the system shock, it dies.
Good.
Okay. Now, how do you base that on a monster?
You sound unimpressed, Jason.
Well, could be instant death.
I guess you would base that on maybe the hit dice of the creature, what type of system shock roll you would need for it. But also, even if it does make that system shock roll, there's a base 100% chance that the change will also change its personality and mentality to that of the creature, which it now possesses. There are some modifiers for every point of intelligence. It lowers it by 5%.
Okay, so like a really intelligent creature would have a pretty good chance of not having that happen.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Can I propose an insta death that's even more certain?
Oh yes.
Using this wand. All right, you're fighting the basilisk in a nice dry dungeon somewhere. You use the wand of polymorph, turn it into a goldfish.
There you go.
Certain death.
Certain death.
Or if you're fighting underwater, turn it into something that can't breathe underwater. Just
like a fly.
Turn it into something that can't breathe wherever you are.
Exactly. This is why this is the possible insta-kill thing.
I just go around turning every monster into a goldfish. It'd be great.
Yeah, right.
Hey.
But there's also the possibility when you use the tap, it acts as polymorph self, which is a little different. Polymorph self, you don't have to worry about a system shock roll. So you could turn one of your companions into, like, I don't know, a grizzly bear, for example. There you go.
Wait. Now I better go look up this thing. You're saying that it can backfire?
No. When you use when you touch somebody with it, use the tapping function of the wand of polymorphing. It functions as the spell polymorph self. Now there's no system shock check required, and you can turn it. Yeah.
So a willing person, you could just be like a bear, bing.
Yes.
Okay.
Form of.
Yeah. You went
form
there.
of an eagle.
You went there.
Something like that.
Shazam.
The only thing I have about this wand is when you use when it shoots the green beam out, and it says in the spell description it needs to make a system shock roll. I'm trying to figure out for a monster, what would you use to determine the monster's system shock roll? What would you use, like the base? Its constitution, its morale.
No, you just there's just a hit dice.
It's intelligence
table. No, I mean if it's got stats, sure, but otherwise you just use your monsters. hit dice tables.
Okay. So if it has a hit dice
Grabbing
too, it's gonna have some really terrible system shock roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the other thing you were saying that now I'm getting a little bit confused. So there was the system shock roll, and then there was there was keeping the personality. That was the other thing, right?
Right. When you use the green beam, the polymorph others spell function, that's where you not only have to make the system shock, but you also have to make a roll versus their intelligence based on some modifiers on the spell description, to where they might take the personality of that creature, get polymorphed into them.
Okay.
So if you polymorph them into a snail, they might become literally a snail in thought and in body.
That's awesome.
Okay. But as far as the saving throw goes, I mean, you'll just use your saving throw matrix for monsters for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just use your save versus wands, and if it makes the save, that means it dodged it.
Yeah.
So
groovy.
It's a heck of a good wand. Does it say how many charges this thing can have?
Standard wand charges, and it can be recharged.
Oh boy, this is pretty powerful, actually.
Yeah, it is. That's what I mean. The possibility of insta-kill, if it fails a system shock roll, I mean,
well,
come on.
Forget the system shock. Like I said, goldfish.
Yeah, turn it into a...
I'm fighting a dragon who's flying in the air. Now I'm fighting a goldfish.
Well, there's a caveat to that. Remember, dragons have
Or magic resistance, yes.
So you got to get past that.
Yes, that's true.
But there's the potential, yes. As long as you get past the saving throw and the magic resistance. Yes.
How about a lich? How's their magic resistance?
They have magic resistance. Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do.
All right, cool.
So, have you used this in a campaign there, Vince or Jason?
No.
No? Never come across this, huh?
Oh, as a player, yeah, not as a DM.
Oh, okay. As a player, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we'll throw it out to the people out there to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. Discuss it. Maybe some interesting ways of using it. Let us know what you think about the wand polymorphing.
Goldfish. So, I guess on that note, that's going to wrap up the show this week.
Oh. Okay.
We've traveled down the long highway as a motorcycle goes by my house.
Ah. Thought you were putting in those special effects.
No. That was a motorcycle. Anyway, so we'll be back next week with another brand new show.
Sweet.
So keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you at Gen Con.
Roll for initiative.